To Zayin, we have a lot to do today. We are picking up on Tes Zayin Amud Beis 16b, and we left off with the sugya of, we'll actually pick up with Ad Heichon Tochacha. So we started these few lines. We started these few lines yesterday. We'll pick up from here. Ad Heichon Tochacha. It is about in the wide lines 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 lines in to the widest lines, not from the bottom. From where the widest lines start, 16 lines down. Ad Heichon Tochacha. So how far do you have to go in giving tochacha, in giving rebuke? Rav Amar Ad Haka. Rav says until the person you are rebuking is ready to hit you. Shmuel Amar Shmuel says Ad Klala, until the person you're rebuking is ready to curse you. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ad Nezifa, and Rabbi Yochanan said until the person you're rebuking is filled with hatred towards you. Ketan says, so the idea is the Gemara is recognizing that tochacha is never a pleasant experience. Most people don't say, "Oh, thank you so much for that tochacha. Can I have a bit more?" So the shaila is, how far are you obligated to go in giving tochacha? Tush the Gemara says, Ketanoi. In reality, this is a machlokes tanoim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Ad Haka. Rabbi Eliezer says until he's ready to hit you. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Ad Klala. Rabbi Yeshua says until he's ready to curse you. Ben Azai Omer Ad Nezifa. And Ben Azai says until he's filled with hatred towards you. And interestingly enough, all three of these opinions stem from the same pasuk. Vayichar av shal biyonasan, vayomer lo ben navos hamardus. So this is also the episode. This is the episode in Shmuel Aleph where Shaul feels that David was trying to go ahead and take the throne from him, and not only that, but he felt that Shlomo was aiding and abetting an enemy of the king. So Shaul gets upset at Yonasan, and he calls him Ben Navas Hamardus. Literally again, you son of a rebellious woman. Uksiv Vayital Shalas Achanis Alav Hakoso, and the pasuk says that Shaul took the spear to kill Yonasan. Now, both say not just the context over here is that again Yonasan was trying to convince Shaul, David's not your enemy. He's not your enemy. So he was giving what the Gemara understands to be tochacha. He was giving rebuke. He was giving rebuke to his father. So watch this. So according to the opinion, it says supposed to give tochacha so the person's ready to hit you. Because the pasuk says that Shaul was ready to hit Yonasan. According to the opinion, it says until he curses you. Shaul says to Yonasan that ultimately, again, what you're doing is humiliating and is a humiliation to the nakedness of your mother. It's a curse. The one that says until hatred, Shaul got very angry. And according to the opinion, it says you have to give tochacha until hatred. The pasuk does make reference to hitting and cursing. Shiny hasam the agav chavivuse yisir the habibeli Yonasan bedavid masra nafshe tvei. I want to say it's also possible this case might be a bit of an outlier. Why? Because since Yonasan has such love for David, he was most ser nefesh for the tochacha against his father, even a bit more. Fine. Supposed to say now the Gemara switches gears again. Supposed to say there's actually a fascinating discussion. We have a concept, and we'll see where it comes from in just a bit, that a person should not change his lodging. Shouldn't change his lodging. Which means, if when I travel, I'm a guest at someone's house, I shouldn't change that up, but rather, again, I should continue to maintain those accommodations. Okay, so the Gemara says, so how far, well, it's a little bit hard for us to let's say, whatever, you normally go to a place X, and whenever you go, you stay by Chaim Yankel's house. Even though, again, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi also invite you to stay there, but the last couple of times you stay by Chaim Yankel, how do we know that you shouldn't change staying from Chaim Yankel's house? You should remain there. So the Gemara says, well, actually, before we get to how do I know, we're going to get to how far must I go in order to maintain consistency in my lodging accommodations. So Rav Amar Ad Haka, Rav says, as long as the host is not hitting you, you should continue to stay there. Shmuel Amar, this is interesting. As long as the host is not packing your bags and throwing them out of the house, you should continue to stay there. So what's happening over here? So we'll say, obviously, if the host is beating me up, so everyone agrees that obviously I probably shouldn't stay there anymore. And if he's throwing my stuff out of the house, literally it means, putting my stuff, packing my stuff up and helping me load my bag on my shoulder, everyone agrees that at the end of the day, I could leave. So we'll say, so what's the machlokes? Ki pligi, ba'kod divisu. Now we'll say, now we're going to read these words, and they're going to sound shocking, which is why we're going to reinterpret them. So rather, where does the machlokes come up? Not if the host is hitting me, but he's hitting my wife. That's what it sounds like. Mar savar kivun d'lo mitzarle, my nafkalamina. So one opinion says, well, he's not beating me up. So if he's not beating me up, what's the big deal? Umar savar asele trude. And others say, no, if he's hitting my wife, chances are we're going to get into it together, and therefore it may be a good idea to relocate. So we'll say, so what's amazing is the Maharsha comments in this Gemara. The Maharsha says, what are you talking about? Right? If you look at Rashi said, well, actually, I'm sorry, not Rashi. The Rabbeinu Gershom has a little bit of a piece on this. But I will say, what are you talking about? That if the host is hitting my wife, then there's a havamina that I should stay. So Maharsha says something amazing. He says, the host is not hitting my wife, the host is hitting his wife. That unfortunately, the place where I'm staying, there's a fundamental lack of shalom between husband and wife in that home. Should I stay in such a home like that? So I'll say, so one opinion says, listen, you know what? Don't mish in other people's shalom bias, right? Don't get involved in other people's shalom bias. Other opinion says, with such a man who mistreats his wife in such a dramatic way, it's only a matter of time until there's quarreling between you and this individual as well. The kol kach lama, says the Gemara, I don't understand. Why the insistence of remaining with my lodging? There's a hotel right down the block, right? There's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi all offered to host me. Why they need to stay at the same host? The Amar achsanoi pogem v'nifkam. The Rebbe says a very profound statement, because the Rebbe says this is talking about where I have been accustomed to staying at the same person's home, and it becomes known that I've stayed at this person's home. The concern is that if I switch my lodging, that reflects poorly on me and on the host, right? Pogim v'nifkam. It's ultimately pogim in the balabais, right? Oh, it says that something's wrong with the host, and it also said there's something wrong with me, that I can't get along with people. So therefore, again, all things being equal, it's good to maintain consistency in your lodging. I both say, so again, I want to be clear. This is talking about where a person already has an established pattern of lodging. So in that case, the Gemara is saying, maintain it. So I say, so now, how do we know this concept? Excuse me. How do I know this concept that a person is not supposed to change his lodging, right? In other words, where does this idea come from? From Avram Avinu. The first pasuk says that Avram Avinu went ahead and pitched his tent to the same place where it was from the beginning. And the other opinion says Vayelech Lamasab. This is with his return from Mitzrayim. With his return from Mitzrayim, ultimately again, he went according to the same stops. So the Gemara says, "My benayu, what's the nafkamina between these two psukim? Ike benayu sanoi da'akroi." So we'll say ultimately again, the nafkamina would be between these two psukim is what happens if I stayed somewhere, but it wasn't premeditated. Meaning, I ended up staying somewhere because the sun went down. Right? It just got darker than I thought it was going to. So I didn't actively choose my lodgings. Rather, again, it just kind of ended up happening. So we'll say, so therefore Rashi says over here, Lemandar me ohalo lo chashiv elach sanya kavua. Ulemandar masav chashav ilo dakrai. So we'll say if you go with the second pasuk masav, that tells you that once you stayed somewhere, even if it wasn't premeditated, but it just happened to be a matter of convenience, you should continue to stay there. According to the first pasuk, it's really a din in a premeditated achsanya. Beautiful. So the Gemara says as follows. Rabbi Yochanan. What's another incredible Gemara? Minayin shelo yishana adam me'umanos omanos avosav. Both said this is an incredible Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan says, how do we know that it is highly preferable that a person not deviate from the umnos, from the trade of his father and of his forefathers? As we'll say, how do we know that Chazal felt that it is a good idea to stay in the family business? How do I know that? Shene Emar. Well, this is very interesting. Shene Emar. Vayishlach HaMelech Shlomo vayikach eschira meitzar min isha amona mimata naftali va'aviv ish mitzvi choresh nechoshes choresh nechoshes va'amar mar ime mi beis dan uksiv v'ito es aliyav ben achisamach lamate dan. So we'll say, when Shlomo Melech was building the Beis HaMikdash, he selected a man by the name of Hiram. What was special about Hiram? Hiram was someone who knew how to work with copper and precious metals. Where did Hiram get this skill set from? From his father. Not only that, but the Gemara says, in fact, on his mother's side, it came from Beis Dan, and also had these same skill sets as well. So from here you see that halacha lamaisa, a person should stay in the same umnus as his father and his grandfather. The Ben Yehoyada comments on this, and he says, what's the pshat? So as I said, what he says is as follows. He says, gives two insights, one practical, one a bit more esoteric. On a practical level, if you grow up around a certain trade, then generally what does that mean? You'll be proficient in it from a young age. So on the most basic level, what Chazal are saying is, listen, if you've got a family business, if you've got a family umnus to go into, go for it. Go for it, because chances are you'll be more proficient because you've seen it growing up. Second possibility, says the Ben Yehoyada, is that sometimes nothing gives a father more nachas than to see his son continue in the same trade. A father will daven with a special amount of kavanah, an additional amount of kavanah, when he sees his son going into the same malacha. So there's apparently an additional element of siyata d'shmaya when the son goes into the father's trade. Okay. Another incredible, these are all incredible sugyas. Means as follows. There's a concept of yisurin, right? The concept of yisurin, of suffering. It is a complicated sugya, but for our purposes today, what we're focusing on is as follows. Well, let's read inside. We'll say, so how essentially the Gemara is asking is, how small amount of suffering is called suffering? It's called yisurin. See, what the Gemara is really asking is like this. Is there a certain time where the concept of yisurin, suffering, ends, and what? What does it become? Inconvenience. I was going to say, by the way, this is a very profound idea, because what the Gemara is really asking over here is, how much should you read into the events of life? What's going to be called Yisurin versus what is something so minimal that at the end of the day it's just called inconvenience? Amr Belazar, Kol Sha'ar Gulo Begel Lilbosh Ve'in Miskabalav. Rabbi Elazar says that even if you're getting your, suit tailored for you, a piece of clothing made for you, and it doesn't fit you the right way, that's called Yisurin. What are you talking about? For sure that's Yisurin. Even less than that is Yisurin. I feel in iskavnu limzog b'chamin umazgalo b'tzonin umazgalo b'chamin. I'll say if they're mixing you a glass of wine. So I guess sometimes you mix the wine concentrate with warm water, sometimes with cold water. You wanted a cold glass of wine, and instead they made you a warm glass of wine, or vice versa. That's called Yisurin as well. Va'at amrit kuli hai. Certainly, if you got your suit tailored and it didn't fit right, of course that's Yisurin, because even much less than that is going to be Yisurin. So the Gemara says, Marbrei Dravina Amar, listen to this, Afilu nepa chaluko. Even if you put your shirt on inside out, right? Even if you put your shirt on inside out, that's also called Yisurin. Rava v'itema, Rav Chisda v'itema, Rav Yitzchak, Rav Masnisatana, afilu hoshit yado lekis, litol shalosh, va'alo biyado shtayim. We'll say even if you put your hand in your pocket to take out 3 coins, and you only took out 2 coins, that's also called Yisurin. V'dafka shalosh va'alo biyado shtayim. But it's daf when you wanted 3 and you took out 2. Why? Because you have to go back into your pocket. Aval shtayim va'alu biyado shalosh lo deleka tircha lemishtayu lemishtayu. Because but if you took out 3 and you only wanted 2, the act of releasing another coin back into your pocket, that's not called Yisurin. Wanting 3, taking out 2 and having to go back into your pocket, that's called Yisurin. So the Gemara says, V'chol kach lama. They both say, so what does all the mean? Trying to figure out what constitutes Yisurin and what doesn't. Why? Tisanya, this. Tisanya dvei Rabbi Shmuel, kol she'avru alav arba'im yom below Yisurin. Both listen to this. Any person who has gone 40 days without Yisurin, kibel olamo. We'll say this is incredible. If you go 40 days with nothing going wrong, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Any person who lives life 40 days with no inconveniences, that means you have received your olam haba in olam hazeh. They used to say, Paranos mizdamnos lo. Somebody goes 40 days without Yisurin. Ultimately, again, there's bad stuff right there. But I will say, you understand the profundity of this Gemara? The profundity of this Gemara is sometimes we have an expectation that life is supposed to go well, right? We have an expectation that there aren't supposed to be bumps or hurdles, that things are supposed to go smoothly. That's the derech. It's supposed to go smoothly, and when something goes wrong, right? It what's the lashon? It miffs us, right? It gets us upset. I can't believe this is happening. And look what the Gemara is saying. No. Things aren't supposed to go smoothly. That I'll say each and every one of us have averos for which we need kapara. And the way the world works is you get your kapara in olam hazeh, or you get your kapara in olam haba. And as much as we love kicking the proverbial can down the road, it is so much better to get your kapara in this world. And the chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does with us is that instead of extracting judgment in large, hurtful doses, sometimes what he does is he extracts judgment from us in smaller digestible doses, like putting my shirt on backwards, like the suit not being tailored the way that I wanted it, like taking out 2 coins instead of 3, so on and so forth. And that's the divine chesed that allows HaKadosh Baruch Hu to go ahead and provide kapara for us in this world, in Olam Hazeh, without it stinging too much. And I will say, if you think about it like this, it opens your eyes to the way to deal with the inconveniences of life. We all know sometimes those inconveniences really rattle us, right? And when you go and the suit is not tailored the right way, right? There's only one thing that you're thinking to yourself, which is, come on, do your job, right? I do my job, you do your job, or there's traffic, or there's this, or there's that. And I will say these are the things that often they rattle us because they're nuisances that often build upon a million other things that I have going on in my life. But what Chazal is telling us is when that happens, take a deep breath and just say, thank you. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the minor inconveniences of life. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because so much better to have these minor inconveniences that ultimately, again, take care of my kapara, take care of my din, and know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching out for me. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the minor inconveniences of day-to-day life. Incredible. Tanya, top of Yud Zayin. Tanya, Rabbi Elazar HaGadol Omer, El Moli BeHaKadosh Baruch Hu Im Avram BeYitzchak BeYaakov B'Din, En Yichol Lamo B'nei Tochacha. They will say, even if HaKadosh Baruch Hu had judged the Avos by the strict attribute of justice, they would have been unable to withstand that judgment. Shne'emar, Va'atos yatsu ve'efshavto avschem lifnei Hashem es kol tzidkos Hashem asher asa itchem ve'es avoseichem. So we'll say the point over in the pasuk is you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed tzedakah even with the avos. Zeh dar shav makshei ba'panecha Yaakov Sela pligi bar Rabbi Yehuda Nisya v'Rabbana. We'll say it's an incredible Gemara. Sorry. So says the Gemara as follows. So after we stop after we talk about the fact that even the avos needed rachamim, needed divine compassion, and could not exist just simply through the prism of divine din, we go on and we say as follows: Zed dar dar shav makshei panach Yaakov Sela. Pligi bar Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya v'Rabbanan. Both Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya and the Rabbanan are arguing. Chad Amar, both listen to this fundamental machlokes. Chad Amar dar lifnei parnis. So I'll say one opinion says that the generation is reflective of the leader. The quality of the generation is reflective of the leader. If the leader is great, the generation will be great. The leader is not so great, generation is not going to be so great. V'chad amar parnes lifnei doro. And the other opinion says no, the leader is a reflection of the generation. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. The leader is a reflection of the generation. So we'll see, you hear the fundamental machlokes, right? Who mirrors who? Does the generation mirror the leader, or does the leader mirror the generation? So the Gemara says, "Lamai hilchasa," right? So what's me? So what does this matter? Ilay milamal yusa, demar savar ima'alei dara ma'alei parnes, umar savar ima'alei parnes ma'alei dara. So maybe you're just going to see like this. Maybe if you're just looking to assess the quality of the generation, can we expect a good leader in this generation or not? Well, it depends. If the leader is dependent on the generation, look at the people. If the people are dependent on the leader, look at the leader. So Gemara says, I'll tell you why the formula doesn't necessarily work. Ha'ikad sidkiya to have a ma'alei, v'darei lo hava ma'alei. You both say there was King Sidkio, right, who had the ability to be Mashiach. He was righteous, but his generation wasn't as righteous. V'ha-Yehoyakim, there was King Yehoyakim, the lo hava ma'alei. He was not so righteous. V'darei hava ma'alei, but yet his generation was exceedingly righteous. The Amr Yochanan B'Shem Ben Yochai, Mai Dichsib Bereshis Mamlachos Yehoyakim Melech Yehuda. Both say the Torah used the Navi used lashon of Bereshis when it comes to the monarchy of Yehoyakim. BK Shakadosh Baruch Hu lahachzer sa'olam l'tov avo. Hakadosh Baruch Hu was so disappointed with Yehoyakim that he wanted to return the world to Bereshis, right, to tov avo. What happened? Bishul Yehoyakim. But once Chakadosh Baruch Hu looked at the generation, even though Yehoyakim wasn't righteous, the generation was, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu sustained the generation. Similarly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to return the world to nothingness because he was so upset with the generation of Tzidkio. Ultimately, again, once he looked at Tzidkio, he had Gisha Vadas. Tzidkio made him feel better about the generation. So we'll say, so what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa, it's not necessarily clear that leaders and generations mirror one another, right? L'maisa, again, at the end of the day, Tzidkio is righteous, generation is not. Yehoyakim is not righteous, generation is. By the way, it's interesting just think about this last night, which is, you would have thought that the paradigmatic example that the Gemara would have brought for this was who? Right? Noach, good. Who else? Right? Even Noach, you could say the problem with Noach is what? Right? Is the Dorosov thing. Right? Noach, it's not clear. You see, his simplest example was Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu and the Dor Hamidbar, right? There is a constant. So I don't know. I didn't have a chance to look at anything about this, but you'll do your homework in Mirz Hashem, and you'll see it. I'm sure somebody brings that down. Ella. So we'll say, why is this discussion important? Le'yetukva v'nichusa ka'amrinan. To which the Gemara says there is literally tukva means kaas, anger. Nichusa noach lirtzos, easy to appease. We'll say, so what the Gemara essentially answers is like this: there is no question that there is a relationship between the leader and the generation. It's just not exactly clear what that relationship is. Is it that the leader goes ahead and reflects the nature of the generation? So also what that means is a leader is only as good, or can only be as great as the generation which he leads? Or do we say that the generation is reflective of the leader, and therefore the generation could only be as great as the leader himself is? So we'll say, it appears, by the way, through other Ma'amari Chazal, that it is the former, which is the way Chazal looked at it, namely, that the leader is really reflective of the generation. This is the concept of Chazal of Yiftach Bedoro Kishmuel Bedoro. Each generation has the type of leader it needs for that type of generation. This generation's leader wasn't as great as 5 generations ago. It could be the generation doesn't need it. The Yiftach B'dor Kishmol B'dor idea seems to indicate that the leader himself is reflective of the generation. But the Gemara says, Ella Linya Tukfa V'Nichusa Kaminan, because there's no question that one thing we do know is that there is some type of synergistic partnership between the leader and the generation, and therefore the temperament of the leader will definitely trickle down to the generation. Hadron Allah Yesh Berachin. We'll say beautiful. We go weiter in Arachin. Heseg Yad Benoder. So we'll say now, we go ahead and we start a new sugya. Heseg Yad Benoder. So we'll say, we're talking about over here as follows. Halacha l'maisa. If some look at Rashi, Heseg Yad Benoder, Torah stin Heseg Yad. We'll say we saw Heseg Yad means as follows. If somebody makes an Arachin neder, right? Ruvain pledges an Arachin vow, and it turns out that he's poor. He's poor. So what's the halacha? The Kohen assesses his ability to pay. So we'll say the halacha is the minimum amount you have to pay for Arachin vow is how much? 1 selah. Right, that's the minimum. So the Kohen assesses the ani, and whatever he could pay, he could pay. So Heseg Yad Benoder. So we'll say your ability to pay is based on the vower's financial ability. So let me explain. Let's say Ruvain the ani comes along and says, Erkicha alai. He comes over to me and he says, I pledge your erech. I'm a male between the ages of 20 and 60, so my erechin value therefore is 50 shkalim. So therefore he's just taking upon himself an erechin value of 50 shkalim. He says, I don't have 50 shkalim. He comes to the Kohen assesses him based on his financial status, the vower's financial status, not on my financial status. Vashanim benidar. We'll say similarly again, if let's say again, someone makes an Arachin vow and I am the subject of his Arachin vow, so the value of that vow obviously is determined by age and gender. It's the age and the gender of the subject of the Arachin vow and not the vower. Va'erachin b'ne'erach. And ultimately, again, the same idea I will say. Any din when it comes to Arachin is determined ultimately again by the person who is the subject of the vow. Va'erech bisman, b'nerachin erech va'erech bisman, erech heseg yad benoder case. That's what we'll say, same idea. Va'erech bisman erech is the same idea, that when judging the age, right, of judging the value of any Arachin vow is determined by age and gender. What the Mishnah is essentially telling me is that halacha l'maisa, we look at the subject of the vow when determining the value of the vow and not the person who is making the vow. Suppose the Gemara says, Heseg Yad Benoder Ketzad. What's the case of Heseg Yad Benoder? What's the case of where we determine ultimately again, Heseg Yad also means when we have to assess a person's financial situation. So we do that in accordance with the vower, Ketzad, Ami Sherich Es HaAshir. We'll say if a poor person pledged the value of a rich person. Now we'll say, now understand over here, in Arachin, there's no chilik between the value of a rich person or a poor person. Remember, these are objective categories, male, female, certain ages. But what it's saying over here is as follows. Reuven is poor. Reuven took upon himself, he said, Erkicha alai. He said, Shimon, I pledge your erech value to the Beis HaMikdash. Shimon happens to be rich. Now the truth is, whether Shimon is rich or poor, let's say, again, he's a male between the ages of 20 and 60, his value is going to be 50 shkalim. It's the same. So what's the halacha? No sin erech ani. Because in this case, the person who made the Arachin vow is poor, we will assess him in accordance with his poverty. Similarly, I will say, if you have a rich person, and the rich person said, Erkecha alai, said to a poor person, I pledge your erech value to the Beis HaMikdash, what's the halacha? No sin erech ashir. Both say in that case, he pays the full value. Or he pays the full Arachin value. Aval, bekarbanos enokin. But also when it comes to karbanos, specifically you're going to see we're talking about the karbanos of a mitzora. This is not the case. Harish amar karbanos shal mitzora ze'alai. We'll say, let's say a person said, I hereby pledge to give the karbanos for this mitzora. We'll say, I'm in a good mood. Right? Reuven became a mitzora. He's now going ahead and going through his purification process. Say, you know what, Reuven, I'm going to pick up the tab on your karbanos. Karbanos on me today. Karbanos all around. Right? I'm going to pick up the tab on the karbanos. So what's the halacha? Harisha amru karbanos shamatzora ze'alai sahayim mitzora ani. They will say, so ultimately, again, if the mitzora was a pauper, maybe karban ani. Then ultimately, again, I, the person who is picking up the carbonic tab, I'm only chayiv to give the type of karban that the mitzora himself would have given. Ashir, maybe karban ashir. If the mitzora is wealthy, then ultimately, again, I go ahead and I give the karban of a wealthy person. In other words, so we'll say, whereas by erchin, the amount that you are obligated for is dependent on who? The person who is making the erech vow. When it comes to karbanos, the value of the karban is determined by the person who has the obligation to bring the karban. So that even if someone else agrees to pick up the tab, that person must bring the type of karban that the makriv would have been chayiv to bring. So the Gemara says, Rabbi says, Rabbi Omer ani af be'erchin kain. Rabbi says, I think the same system applies to erchin. V'chi b'pnei ma ani she'erech es ha'asher nosin erech ani. So why is it that ultimately, again, an ani who pledges the erchin value of a rich person pays in accordance with his poverty-stricken state, she'ein ha'ashir chayiv klum. Because we'll say, in that case, the ashir is not chayiv anything. Whereas the ani is pledging the value, the erech value of the ashir, but the ashir really is just an object of valuation in this place. Aval ashir she'amar erki alai. Well, so listen to this interesting case. If an ashir said, excuse me, Erki alai, right? An Ashir said, I hereby pledge my value to the Beis HaMikdash. V'shama ani, and a poor person heard this. V'amar, and he said, Ma sha'amar zeh alai, and the pauper heard it. He heard the Ashir take the vow, and he said, count me in, right? I'm in for one of those two. Then what's the halacha? No sin erech Ashir. He has to pay the full value of the erech vow. I will say, so the distinction between this case and the previous cases, the ani is making his own erech vow. If he's making his own erech vow, that's when we could reduce the amount of the erech liability based on his poverty state. But when he's piggybacking off someone else's erech vow, then ultimately the Mishnah seems to indicate he will be on the hook for the full amount. Hesig yad b'marechu, the Gemara says, Hesig. So we'll say the Gemara begins by asking a syntax question. The Mishnah reads Hesig Yad Benoder. Then we'll say we're not talking about Nidarim, we're talking about Erchin. So why doesn't the Mishnah read Hesig Yad B'Marich? So the Gemara says Hesig Yad B'Marich Hu Kidichsev Asher Tasig Yad Hanoder Ya'arichenu HaKohen. Because the Torah uses the lashon of Noder by Erchin as well, and therefore the Mishnah borrows that same lashon. Hashanim B'Nidar, same question. Why does it say that the age is determined ultimately again by the person who is the subject of the vow? B'ne'erachu. It should say b'ne'erach. I did the Amr Hesig Yad B'Noder, Amr Nami Hashanim B'Nidar. We'll say once we went ahead and we said Hesig Yad and we used lashon of Noder, for Shanim we also use lashon of Nidar in order to keep Mishnaic symmetry. Good. Hesig Yad B'Noder Ketzad. So we'll say, remember again, next case, how do we determine poverty? Ketzad ani sharich as ha'asher no sein erech ani. So what's the halacha? The halacha is if a poor person said, I hereby pledge the value of Ruvain, and Ruvain happens to be fabulously wealthy, right? So the halacha is, nevertheless, we go ahead and I pledge the erech of Ruvain. Ruvain says, I hereby pledge the erech of Shimon, and Ruvain is poor. We assess Ruvain in accordance with his state of poverty, and we give him a reduced erech liability. My time, what's the reason? The Amakra, Asher Tasig Yad Hanoder. The pasuk says when it comes to erchin, that which the noder's hand can acquire. Benoder talarachmano. Oh, you see the Torah hinges the erchin dynamic on the noder. Aval bekarbanos enokain. But also with karbanos, it's not like this. Harish amar karbanos shamatzora zalai. So when it comes to erchin, the Torah clearly indicates to us that the liability in paying erchin is determined by the situation of the noder, the person making the erech vow. But by karbanos, it's not like this. Harish amar karbanos shamatzora zalai. Person says, I see Ruvain the Mitzorah, he's about to bring his karbanos. I say, you know what? I'm going to pick up the tab on the karbanos. Hayim Mitzorah ani, maybe karban ani. If Ruvain is poor, I'm only liable to poor karbanos. Af agav de madira ashir, even though I might be personally wealthy. V'im dalhu amar Rachmana v'lo dalhu. Because I will say the pasuk says that what? The pasuk says, "Va'af agav d'madira asher v'im dalu am rachmana v'lo dal." Because I will say the pasuk ultimately indicates to us that if he is poor, so as long as the person who is obligated to bring the carbon is poor, then what? Then halacha lamaisa, the nature of the carbon is one of a poor person, even if at the end of the day the vower is rich. Am Rabbi Yitzchak kishaya madira va'ani. So ultimately, I will say, what are they? So I will say, here's the problem. The Gemara says, "V'im dalu am rachmana v'lo dalhu." So I'll say the issue over here is that in this case, the vower is not poor. So if the vower is not poor, then why should he only be liable to a poor person's carbon? On Rabbi Yitzchak kishahaya madira ani. What's the case? Rabbi Yitzchak says the case of the Mishnah is where both the vower as well as the metzora were both poor. I v'dilma alei didei chas rachmana amadira lo. To which the Gemara says, well, maybe the Torah only had rachmanis on the actual person who's obligated to bring the carbon, but maybe for the madira, for the person making the neder, Torah says, listen, you had no obligation to make this neder. If you made the neder, we're going to assess you in accordance with your financial abilities. To which the Gemara says, Dahaksiv hu, because we'll say the pasuk says dal hu, which seems to indicate the only person who could plead poverty is the person who is actually obligated to bring the carbon. But we'll say the pasuk says, and his hand did not acquire. This comes to include even the person who is making the neder. Halacha l'maisa, that's what? That in Yado Maseges, I will say, is a more inclusive phrase to teach you that ultimately, again, even the noder would not be obligated to bring the rich man's carbon. L'rabbo says hanoder comes to include the one ultimately who is chayiv to the carbon. Aval madiro asher hachanami demaisi bashiros. But Rabbi says, so all of these psukim only point to the fact that if the metzora himself was poor, he gets reduced carbonic liability. But if the person who's making the neder is rich, then halacha l'maisa, he should have to bring a proper carbon, a rich man's carbon. Im kain, my aval b'karbanos enokain. If that's the case, then what's the meaning of the phrase? When we make a contrast, you will say, what you're essentially saying is that karbanos and erchin are kind of the same thing, right? That at the end of the day, we assess carbonic, we assess erchin liability how? By the vower. So by karbanos, you're pretty much saying the same thing, that we assess carbonic liability how? By the person who's obligated to bring the carbon. And therefore, even if someone else says, I'll pick up the tab for those karbanos, halacha l'maisa, I'm only obligated to pick up the tab as if the person who was chayiv would have brought the karbanos. To which the Gemara says, Amud Beis, Chada Metzora Ani, Umadiro Ani. But in reality, says the Gemara, there are two cases in the Mishnah. One case of the Mishnah is the metzora is poor, and the person who is making the promise to pick up the tab for the karbanos is poor. V'chada, and we'll say in that case, okay, that's the easier case of the two. If they're both poor, then it's clear that what? The liability for karbanos will only be for a poor person's carbon. V'chada lemiute metzora asher umadira ani. And we'll see the other case comes to exclude a situation of where the metzora is rich, but the person who is making the neder to pick up the tab is poor. Sakadai Tchamina, I would have thought Hol v'Israbu Israbu. We'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Metzora madiro ani v'chad l'miutim metzora asher umadiro ani kilomar vade chad l'mehanach mili demasdis dahainu hachtik tani im hayu metzora ani maybe carbon ani vade madiro ani kamari v'alkimna mideidach milsa nafkalim from. Sorry. So whole of Yisrabi, I would have thought that this case is included as well. Kamash malon lefi shematzinu be'erchin. Well, since we found by a case of erchin, ani sheherich es ha'ashir, no sin erech ani, that if a person made an erech vow, he pledged the value of an ashir, he only has to pay in accordance with his means. Yachal af zekain. I might have thought that this case is the same thing by mitzora, that Allah l'maisa, if a rich man pledges to bring the mitzora's karbanos, that Allah l'maisa and the mitzora is an ani, that the rich man should only have to bring the carbon ani. Kamash Talmud Lomar im dal hu. The Pasuk says no. By karbanos mitzora is different. The only person who gets a poverty exemption for karbanos is who? The actual person who is obligated to bring the carbon. But if a rich man pledged to bring the karbanos of the mitzora ani, he has to what? Bring a rich man's carbon. And I will say halacha l'maisa. So the Gemara says as follows. So I just want to. Well, let's finish. Rabbi da Amar, Rabbi da Amar, Rabbi da Amar, ani af be'erchen kain. Oh, sorry. Rabbi da Amar, Omer ani af be'erchen kain. And according to Rabbi, who holds that the same system applies to erchen. Alma Amar Basar Chiyuva de Gavra Azlinon V'halot Suicha Karla Mi'utei. So also according to Rabbi, therefore you have to say that what? We look at the liability of the individual, and therefore I don't need an exclusion from the pasuk. Hu lemi'utei mai. So what does the word who come to exclude? Lemi'utei mitzora ani umadira asher. It comes to exclude the case of also of what? Of a mitzora who is poor, and a rich man agrees to bring his karbanos. You might have thought that since we look at the liability of the individual, the rich man should only be obligated to bring a poor man's karbanos. Kamashlan, that is not the case. So we'll say, what comes out here is as follows. Halacha l'maisa, when it comes to erchin, everything is determined ultimately again by the financial situation of the person who is making the erech vow. So halacha l'maisa, if I go ahead and if I am poor and I go over to Reuven and say, Reuven, erkecha alai, and Reuven is a rich man. Now again, remember, for erchin, a person's individual wealth doesn't make a difference for the value of the neder. What we're asking now is, so Reuven's a male between 20 and 60, 50 shekel. I go to the Kohen and I say, I can't afford that. The Kohen looks at me, the vower, and not at the subject of my vow when assessing the value of the vow. That is not true by karbanos. Specifically over here by karbanos nazir. Halacha l'maisa, if you have a situation of where both the vower and the person who's chayving the carbon, we'll call him the vower and the mitzora, are both aniyim, so it goes without saying that what? That halacha l'maisa, you bring a carbon ani. What happens if the vower is rich and ultimately again the mitzora is poor? So the Rambam paskins that halacha l'maisa, the vower has to bring a rich man's carbon. Why? Because when it comes to the exclusion of poverty by karbanos, imdal hu, the only person who could claim an exemption or reduced carbonic liability is the makrev, is the mitzora himself. But anyone else who is picking up the tab for these karbanos, your carbonic liability will be assessed in accordance with your personal financial means. Beautiful. Says the Mishnah, Haya ani v'hi'esher. I'll say next case. If a person was poor and then Baruch Hashem became rich, Ashir v'ha'ani, or he was rich and then he became poor. So we'll say, so remember again, in these situations what's happening over here is as follows. Reuven makes an erech vow. He makes an erech vow. And then what happens? His financial circumstances change between the time of making the vow and payment of the vow. He was poor, then he became rich. He was rich, then he became poor. What's the halacha? No sin erech ashir. We'll say apparently in all of these cases, halacha l'maisa, he has to pay in accordance as if he had means. As if he had means. He pays like a man of means. Va'ani no sin erech ashir. I'm sorry, I lost the place. No sin erech ashir. Rabbi Yehuda says, ani v'ha'ashir, if he was poor and he became rich, v'chazar va'ani, and then became poor again, no sin erech ashir. So we'll say, now this is even a more dramatic case. He was poor, rich, poor. So halacha l'maisa, he has to pay full erech value. Aval by karbanos ain't okay. But I will say by karbanos it's not like this. We'll say, as we're going to see by karbanos, we assess your abilities when? At the time that you are actually ready to bring the carbon. It appears that by erchin, as long as you are wealthy, at some point in time between the making of the vow and the paying of the vow, even if you no longer have that wealth, we assess you at a full erech liability. By karbanos, we assess your abilities at the time that you are actually bringing the carbon. Says the Gemara, "Val karbanos enokin afilu meis aveveni chlo ribo osfinasa bayam ubaalo birivos ein lehektish baklum." We'll say if a person has a carbonic liability and halacha l'maisa, again he stands to inherit an incredible amount of money, and his father is on his deathbed. Right now he doesn't have much money, but he's going to inherit a fortune. We don't look at the fortune he's going to inherit, but rather again we look at him as he is now, and therefore hektish has no claim against this. So we'll say, so let's analyze this. Ani ve'ashir. So we'll say, so what's the pshat? So if he was, so by erchin, if he was poor, and then we'll say we'll stop over here for today. We'll Emirat Hashem pick up with this Gemara. Emirat Hashem tomorrow. Again, we'll say reminder tomorrow's Rosh Chodesh as well. We start 5:45. Shkoyach.